Well, that didn't take long. Trouble in Buffalo with Jordan Greenway. We'll talk about that, plus potential ideal playoff opponents and Marcus Johansson back beyond this season. All today on Locked on Wild.
You're Locked on Wild, your daily podcast on the Minnesota Wild. Part of the Locked on Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's happening, Wild fans? Welcome to another episode of Locked on Wild, your daily Minnesota Wild podcast, part of the Locked on Podcast Network, your team every day. Thank you for making Locked on Wild your first listen each and every day. Just a reminder, make sure that you subscribe or follow for free on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcast so you don't miss out on any of our new episodes throughout the week. On today's episode of Locked on Wild, we take a look at potential playoff opponents and who is most ideal for the Wild in round one. We'll also talk about a little bit of a rocky start to Jordan Greenway's tenure in Buffalo and plenty more to get to here on today's episode as well with Alex Micheletti. My name is Seth Topal, your daily Minnesota Wild insider, and we are joined, as mentioned, by Alex Micheletti, talking about so much here today. And Alex, it was a mostly good weekend for the Wilds. Ended up losing to Boston, although 2 goals wiped off the board. Don't even get me started on that. And then you followed up with a pretty dominant win against the Washington Capitals. And this team just continues to click, continues to plug away. They found another gear. And ironically, it happens with Kirill Kaprizov out of the lineup. They keep finding ways to score goals.
Yeah, unbelievable. What, I think 24 since Kirill went out. So, it's amazing. And Matt Boldy has really stepped his game up. Where would they be without him over the past couple of games? And he deserved to get that hat trick. Almost got a 4th goal. That was crazy. So, yeah, it's coming down to the wire here, and it's been a full team effort. Every line's contributing. Heck, even Ryan Reeves is scoring. So when he's scoring, things are going well for this team.
Yeah, it's been just a lot of fun to watch because I think we're starting to see them get back to that level they were on last year. Now, obviously, maybe not that same type of offense, but the same type of approach where you've got everybody sharing the love throughout the lineup. And Marcus Johansson, we've talked about him quite a bit since his return to Minnesota. I did think it was interesting that Michael Russo for The Athletic recently talked about if this continues, this role that second line is on, we may see Marcus Johansson in Minnesota beyond this season. And honestly, if he keeps producing at this level and this line continues to click like this, you got to consider it for sure.
Yeah, we've been, the search has been on to find somebody to play next to Matt Boldy, and who would have ever thought it's Marcus Johansson, maybe. So, if he. The last time he was with the Wild, he was banged up. I think he broke his arm multiple times. So that was, or in 2 spots. And so, he's healthy. He's just got to stay healthy. That's been his bug is, getting hurt. And so he just got to stay healthy and, and continue to develop that chemistry. And Eck has just been on fire with those guys too. So, to have 2 scoring lines is huge for this team. And we've seen the benefits of that over the past week or so.
Yeah, and we avoided, it sounds like, some major concerns because in that game against Washington late, Johansson came out after blocking a shot with the side of his foot. I gagged when they showed the replay, just thinking about how that would feel. He was taken out of the lineup. Oscar Sundqvist, elite goal scorer himself, was also taken out of the lineup. But Dean Evison saying after the game, it was purely from a precautionary standpoint. Both guys could have come back into the game if it was a situation where they needed to. Game was well in hand, though, and so they were held out. But even had they not been able to go, this team has a lot of depth now. As Anson Carter would so lovingly say, it's deep, and it's deep with veteran guys that can step into the lineup. Marcus Foligno didn't play against the Capitals. He's getting close. You've got just a ton of guys that can fill spots if the need arises, and that's it's just a very much deeper team, I think, than we've seen over the last couple of seasons, with guys that can step in and help if needed.
Yeah, we're not even mentioning Gus Nyquist too. He can score too, and so that's an added bonus if he can get in before the regular season or put him into the playoff lineup. Dean's got some tough decisions to make down the stretch here. Who's going to sit? I mean, you look at a guy like Mason Shaw. He's just been playing phenomenal. He can't. He always seems to be the guy that you would take out of the lineup, but how could you at this point? And he's been great. And Connor Dewar, just a penalty kill merchant machine. It's just I don't know what they're gonna do. I guess I'm sure it'll come down to who they play in the first round. So yeah, lots of interesting decisions to make.
Lots of choices. And you talk about a guy like maybe Sam Steele coming out of the lineup, but he has been playing better over the last couple of games too. And so everybody senses that you are one bad game away from coming out of the lineup. And so people are, I mean, we even had John Merrill get the seats after his 2 penalty debacle against the Boston Bruins. And so even Merrill getting a scratch, because you can't afford, I think, you can't afford to just let guys continue to build up bad performances. And so guy has a bad performance, he's probably going to sit, because this team just has enough players that can play to be able to do that without missing a beat.
And points that are at a premium right now. You can't throw away a point. You see a team like Edmonton tonight. They played San Jose, and they were down, and they rallied in overtime to get that extra point. You can't be losing the bad teams. When you're fighting for these playoff spots and matchups, and you don't want to, especially in the Central Division, you don't want to play Colorado the first round. It's just that's a team that's humming, and they continue to lose guys. I mean, they were missing Cale Makar tonight. He was scratched, and all they did was win, I think 5-0 against Chicago. It's just steamrolling. Guy named Dennis Mulligan had 3 points. They're just having no-namers step up to the plate. They don't even have their captain. It's just the Avs are rolling, and Gorgiev, all he has to do is play just a little bit better than Darcy Kemper, and they'll just steamroll through the playoffs again. So watch out for Colorado.
Must be nice. Must be nice. We'll talk a little more about potential playoff opponents, because that final wild card spot is a mess.
It is.
Calgary Flames got imploded by the Los Angeles Kings, and yet somehow they're still within striking distance of Winnipeg, who I think they've just gone on strike in terms of winning games. So we'll talk about who's in, who's out, who do we want to play in the first round as we continue today's episode of Locked On Wilds, after a word from our sponsor, which is the official sports betting partner of Locked On. That is FanDuel Sportsbook. And with the NCAA tournament in full swing, now is the perfect time to download FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because new customers get a no-sweat first bet up to $1,000. That's bonus bets back if your first bet doesn't win. Just download the FanDuel Sportsbook app. It's safe, secure, and super easy to use. Then you can bet on everything from the money line to point scores and 3-pointers drained. Or in my case, you can just take your bracket, light it on fire, and throw the ashes in the backyard. FanDuel even lets you combine your bets for a chance at a bigger payout with the same game parlay. So don't miss the chance to get your no-sweat first bet up to $1,000 in bonus bets when you go to FanDuel.com/lockedon. That's FanDuel.com/lockedon to learn more. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sports betting partner of Locked On. Continuing today's episode of Locked On Wild, once again, thank you for making Locked On Wild your first listen every single day of the week. If you haven't already, make sure you take the time to subscribe and follow us on YouTube or your favorite podcast platforms so you don't miss out on any new episodes, pre or post game content as well. We got a lot that we throw at you here throughout the week. Let's talk playoff opponents, because I think it's I think the secret is out there that, barring some sort of just amazing and in a horrifying way level collapse, I think it's pretty safe to say that the postseason is going to happen for the Wild this year. And so you kind of start to look ahead and wonder who would be the teams that you would want to face in that first round. Well, not Colorado. We're pretty set on that. But what do we think about some of the other teams? I mean, I would imagine Dallas is probably a pass. I would rather not. And so then you look at like Winnipeg, Nashville, Calgary, whoever ends up being the team that crawls in off the pile and grabs that final wild card spot, because that thing is a mess.
Oh, 100%. It seems like the Wild have had the Jets number recently. I think that would be the most ideal opponent. They seem to just get in Connor Hellebuck's head, and they're it just doesn't. It seems like the Jets are missing something, and there's a weird situation with Pierre-Luc Dubois. He doesn't seem like he wants to be there long term. The rumor is, he wants to go to Montreal, so that doesn't help. And you got weird chemistry issues. I got Nino coming in into the top six, and I just, I don't think that team has ever really replaced Dustin Byfuglien too on the back end, and so it's a strange team right now. And it's been weird vibes for that team all season, getting rid of the captaincy for Blake Wheeler. I don't know what they were thinking doing that. That just, I think that bothered the team and the fan base for sure. So, it'd be really nice to play Winnipeg and Nashville. If Nashville somehow gets in, with, trading everybody, that would just be a complete miracle. And I think the Wild would boat race the Predators.
I know they just hired him as their head coach, but if Nashville gets in over Winnipeg, I would fire Rick Bowness. I'm of course talking tongue in cheek, because I know they just hired him, and you're in a situation with that team where you're kind of trying to get a little bit out of the front end of this before they start to inject some youth. So it is very much a roster that has some warts on it, but the situation is this. You have Winnipeg in the final wild card spot with 81 points. Calgary's within striking distance, even though they got
8-2. 8. They let Markstrom stay in for. I mean, they play tomorrow night too, so I don't know what their plan is. But he gave up 6. Just horrendous.
And yet they're only 4 points back of the Winnipeg Jets. And then you have Nashville, who's 5 points back, but Nashville hold the golden ticket in this whole thing, because they have 3 games in hand on everyone somehow. I don't know where that other game is hiding, because everybody else in the West is at 69, 70, 71 games. And then here's Nashville sitting at 68. They, in fact, with the exception of the Carolina Hurricanes, so that's where the other game is. Okay, so they've got a loss on the schedule to the Carolina Hurricanes,
Oh,
but
100%.
3 games in hand, and so you go 2 out of 3 there, and all of a sudden you are 1 point back of the Winnipeg Jets. This thing's coming down to the last day of the season.
Yeah, 100%. It's going to be crazy. Just who wants to be in it? Who wants to get shellacked in the first round? That's their only issue. Do you want to get in? Would you rather be in the lottery for this deep draft that's going to be upcoming, and the Connor Bedard sweepstakes? So, yeah, it's going to be fascinating to watch for sure.
And those are the only options. Those are the only 3 teams that can potentially be in position to either make or not make the playoffs, because next closest is St. Louis. They're 9 points back of Nashville, and they're not gonna get it done. They may get past in the standings by Vancouver, which would be it would be amazing. And
Yeah.
so it's going to be either Winnipeg or Calgary or Nashville. And I don't particularly feel good about any of those 3 teams if I'm them gearing up for the playoffs. Pack a short, like an overnight bag, and that's probably all you're going to need.
Yeah, 100%. Remember last playoffs, right before Daryl Sutter's, like, whoever gets the wild card spot against Colorado, it's gonna be a quick 8 days, and I think Colorado eliminated Nashville in 9 days, so it took 1 extra day. So just it's a nightmare being that last wild card spot. It just, especially this season, it just seems like there's a lot of teams in turmoil. Even if they're still in the playoff race, there's just a lot going on for those teams that you mentioned, especially Calgary.
Yeah, it's a messy situation. Here's the funny thing too. The top 3 in both divisions. Listen to this. So the Dallas Stars, 7-3 in their last 10. Colorado is 7-2-1 in their last 10. The Wild are 7-1-2 in their last 10. All 3 of the top teams in the Pacific are 8-2 in their last 10 games. I'm sorry, but any of those teams that are currently in a wild card position in the West, you're not going to catch them.
No, heck no. It's just
you're pretty set.
Right.
Pretty set where you're at.
It isn't it strange? Yeah, it's just you can't make it up really. So, yeah, we'll see who's desperate enough.
Yeah. So in terms of hierarchy, I would say of the teams that are currently in the picture, it would be Nashville / Calgary, then Winnipeg, then probably Seattle.
Yeah,
Because
definitely.
let's just assume the possibility that the Wild do vault up and end up at the top of the division standings. They would then play one of the top wild card spot. And so you could play Seattle in the postseason. So Calgary, Nashville, whichever order you want there, because I don't think it really matters. Then Winnipeg is the next most desirable. Then Seattle, then Dallas, then Colorado would probably be how I would rank it from top to bottom for teams that you are most desiring to clap in that opening first round series.
Yeah, 100%. This franchise, they just need to get out of the first round. It's how many years in a row are they, just gonna suffer? It's so agonizing too. You got guys that go on the milk carton too. We don't have to worry about Kevin Fiala not showing up in the playoffs this season. So, it's the pressure's on for guys like Matt Boldy and Marcus Johansson to help out Kaprizov when he's full go. And, Matt Zuccarello has to be good for this team too.
Yeah.
So, yeah, there's some guys that really the pressure is going to be on this team for sure to help them get to the next round.
Yeah, most definitely. That's the goal. And it's crazy that this team is at this point, considering that they're carrying around a briefcase with like $12 million in it that they don't know the combination of how to open. And they're still like, if they go in their final 12 games, if they go 6-6, they end up with 46 wins, which I don't know if that would have been something that anybody would have expected coming into this season with the lack of offense. And yet they're like 2 wins off of last year's pace.
Yeah, it's incredible. We can look back. Remember that game against Vegas when Vegas just absolutely destroyed the Wild, and you had Marc-Andre Fleury going unhinged, slamming his stick, and they had that players only meeting with the doors closed, and then I think they lost a couple more after that to Florida and Colorado, but then they went on a 14-point streak there, and everything turned around from there, and it forced Bill Guerin to make some moves here, and you got to hand it to Bill. Every move he's made has worked out. John Klingberg is very polarizing, but Sundqvist is scoring. Reeves, who we got earlier, but he's stepping up, and Marcus Johansson's fit in, like a glove on that second line with Matt Boldy, and has helped get him going. The first game, you're like, why did Marcus Johansson, but since then he's taken off, and so yeah, it's been really fun to see this team develop chemistry with the new guys, and you see all the off ice videos, and everybody's loving Ryan Reeves, and so yeah, it's good times.
Yeah, it's a good vibes are back. That second line has something like 24 points in the 5 games since Kirill went out of the lineup, which is I can't even do that on a video game. So yeah. it's unreal, and hats off to Billy G. Hats off to Dean for continuing to cultivate a lineup that's winning games. It's a good winning formula for this team. I know there are gripes about how things have gone, but it's a situation where if this team continues to win, there aren't going to be a lot of changes. So
yeah, look at what they're doing. They're doing it without Kirill Kaprizov too, who at the time was playing like a top 5 NHL player, and so for them to put up the amount of goals that they're doing, it's impressive. And they have another tough one tonight against the Devils, who will have Jack Hughes back. So the last game they played against the Devils was so entertaining. Went to that shootout, and so I'm looking forward to another game against them tonight. And they're coming off a game where Jesper Bratt had a hat trick, so it's interesting. And now they have Timo Meier too, so it's it's gonna be interesting tonight for sure.
Let's talk a little bit more about that game and the rest of the week. We do have to fulfill that tease that I had about Jordan Greenway's time in Buffalo so far as well. So we'll finish with those 2 items on today's episode of Locked On Wild after this. Are you looking for a delicious treat but don't want all the fat and calories? Built Bar is here for you. What makes Built Bar so good? Well, for starters, they're covered in 100% real chocolate. Yes, that's not a typo. 100% real chocolate. They also come in some unbelievable flavors like churro, peanut butter brownie, and coconut almond. I don't know how Built Bar continues to be able to get things done like this, but these bars are the healthiest ever. Just 130 calories and 4 grams of sugar with a whopping 17 grams of protein. Best of all, you no longer need to wait for your Built Bars to arrive. If you have a Walmart or Sam's Club nearby, you can head there and buy yourself a box, bring it home, or if you want to, you can eat them on the car ride back to your house and then drive back and get more. If you don't have one close by, you can always head to Built.com, but whichever way you choose, make sure that your choice is Built Bar. Final segment of today's episode of Locked On Wild. Once again, thank you for making Locked On Wild your first listen every day of the week. We continue today's episode with Alex Micheletti talking about the rest of this week. New Jersey Devils on tap for tonight. The New Jersey Devils are road warriors this year. They're 26-4-6, I think, on the road, which is insane. And so not as good at home, but it's still, regardless, it's still a real tough team, a real tough matchup, which is why I'm so glad that we got Jonas Brodin and Jake Middleton both back ahead of what should be an absolute meat grinder.
Yeah, 100%. Like I mentioned, they picked up, I think, the best guy that was on the market on the trade deadline, and Timo Meier. I just absolutely love the way that guy plays the game of hockey. He plays with an edge and can score like the best of them. And so, the Wild, thank God they have Jonas Brodin back. You can tell how much of a difference that guy makes. If the Norris Trophy wasn't all about points, Jonas would be right up there with Erik Karlsson. So, it's so nice to have him back. And, Joel Eriksson Ek is going to have to be on his game too to help, shut down Jack Hughes. I'm sure they'll have him out there against him as much as possible to help out. We'll see if Vitek Vanacek, I'm sure that's who they'll go with, can slow down this powerhouse offense that the Wild have going. It's going to be an entertaining game. I can't wait for tonight.
As if they needed any bigger of a follow-up game to that. Oh, wait, no, I was looking at the wrong part of the schedule. They play the Flyers as part of the road trip after the Devils, and Chuck Fletcher no longer there. They pulled the plug after he talked about an app that he used to rate trades. Admitted this out loud. An app that he used to rate trades, and so he got shown the door. It's a Flyers team that, as the Wild saw the last time they played them, physical. They like to kind of slow it down a little bit. And so even though the Flyers are in a little bit of misery mode, it's still one that the Wild need to not take lightly. And I am going to be interested to see if we do get the Nick Delorier, Ryan Reeves fight. You never know.
They have Nick Seeler too, who's just an animal. So that's he's always a candidate for sure in a fight. Yeah, we always talk about this, you and I. You can't give a team hope, because if you give them any type of like small hope, or they score one or two, then they think they can win the game, they can stay in it, and you never know what you're going to get with Carter Hart too. He's another one of those goalies that can implode very quickly, and so you want to get the lead early and then just punish them. So yeah, it should be another crazy game. The last game there was like 3 or 4 fights. That was a national TV game. So yeah, we'll see. And as we predicted too, John Tortorella has just been a nightmare hire by Chuck. So they could both be out the door. John could be joining him soon as well.
Mike Yo's not doing anything from what I've been told. So
right.
Maybe you go him, maybe you go John Torchetti, just former Wild coaches that continue to
get the recycle going.
Yeah, continue to get it going. Carter Hart, 15 goals allowed in his last 5 starts. He did get a win against Buffalo, but he gave up 5 to Tampa Bay and 4 to Pittsburgh in his most recent starts. So chances should be generous in this one for the Wild. So hopefully they'll be able to take care of business. I did go so far as to hot take predict a win against the Devils. So we'll see if that happens. But then they finish the week hosting Chicago on Saturday. And the Wild will get an opportunity to see Wyatt Kaiser play meaningful minutes for that Chicago team that is just kind of hanging on for dear life.
Yeah, apparently this third round draft pick is getting more ice time than a certain first round pick of the Wild. So yeah, we'll see how many minutes Wyatt gets against the Wild. Even though they play two different positions. So yeah,
I
yeah,
couldn't
and
resist.
we could see an old friend in Alex Stalock in that too. So it's amazing that he's still playing. So kudos to Stalock for still getting a chance in the NHL. So yeah, it's a Chicago team that's mightily struggling, and they're firmly in the Connor Bedard sweepstakes. But again, it's another team that you can't give hope. But
Yeah.
Colorado just wiped them clean 5-0. This past night, so they're
Yikes.
in free fall mode too.
Yeah. So it should be an opportunity to pick up a couple of wins at least. I always say in the situation of the Devils game, if you can find a way to get it to OT, get a point out of it, that's a good measuring stick for a team. But the Eastern Conference is just it's a juggernaut, and so there are going to be some games where you just can't do it. So hopefully that's not the case tonight, but we'll see. Let's finish talking Jordan Greenway because there were some tweets over the weekend and there was an article written too, I believe,
Mm-hmm.
in which the general sentiment for Greenway's tenure in Buffalo so far is he's not quite a top 6 guy, doesn't really fit into the top 6, kind of tentative on the ice. And there are Buffalo fans that are saying we need to let this play out. There are Wild fans that are saying we've seen that movie and this is pretty much just what you have at this point.
Yeah, I think this is Jordan's last stand in the NHL because if this doesn't work out in Buffalo, it could be curtains in the National Hockey League, and go help find a home overseas. So yeah, it's tough. He's with the coach that he's had before in Don Granato, and they're that they thought that's get him back to a guy that he's been under his tutelage. And it's just I don't know. He's got to take a hard look at himself in the mirror here, and especially over the summer, and figure out do you want to be an NHL player or not? And so, like you said, we've seen this movie, and it's just it seems like the focus is not there for him too, and that's you can't just be lollygagging out there. It's the coaches notice, GMs notice you're playing for your job right now. It doesn't look like Buffalo's going to make the playoffs, and so you have to do everything you can to want to stay with that team. And they gave up a lot for him. They somehow Buffalo gave the Wild a second round draft pick and threw in another pick too, just for giggles. Yeah, it's unbelievable. It's sad because Jordan has all everything that you're looking for in a modern NHL power forward. He just doesn't use his size. I don't know what it's just when you don't have confidence, that doesn't help either. And so, like I said, it's going to be an interesting summer for him, and see if he can come into the next season with focused and wanting to get into that top 9, because right now he is profiling as a fourth line or extra guy sitting in the press box getting popcorn and hot dogs, and you don't want to be that guy.
No, you don't. It just was so interesting at the end of the Greenway tenure in Minnesota, those comments that he made. The ones that really stuck with me were him saying that he wasn't a guy that really needed any sort of external motivation. And I'm like, what?
What?
So
the worst part is you can't oversleep for a game too. You're an adult. I mean, what no one knows what the heck that was. So that looked like the final straw.
Yeah. And so I still am shocked at how Bill Guerin was able to fleece a second round pick from Buffalo, but that's how Billy G operates. Is he plants the seed in opposing GMs and comes back to it later. John Klingberg, for example, I think we'll hang on to Klingberg. I don't think we're going to trade him. And he's like,
sure you will.
Sure you will. And then sure enough, they called and they're like, yeah, we'll do the deal. Guerin's like, I know you will, because I have made it. I have willed it to be this way. So thank you to Bill Guerin for getting a second round pick and a 5th round pick for Jordan Greenway, who doesn't need any external motivation.
Unbelievable. Yes. Billy G masterclass for sure.
Absolute. Just a clinic. But yeah, that will do it for today's episode. So once again, thank you for making Locked On Wild your first listen every day. Use this opportunity, if you have not already, to subscribe on YouTube, follow us on your favorite podcast platforms so you don't miss out on any of our new videos. Turn notifications on where you are able so that you'll get a little ding or the bell or whatever when we have a new episode that comes out. We've got pre and post game content for you, as well as full episodes. So plenty to offer throughout the week. And we're keeping you as up to date on Minnesota Wild hockey as we possibly can. So stay tuned with us as we guide you through the rest of the postseason push. We've got new episodes every Monday through Friday as part of the Locked On Podcast Network.